So I wanted to talk about something that really bugged me about the Superman Son of Kal-El series, which ended, I believe, last year. In interviews, the writer Tom Taylor was talking about how he was really proud and happy about the fact that he wrote an entire series where the protagonist didn't throw a single punch. Now, I'm not the kind of person who, when it comes to superhero comics, can appreciate someone taking a different direction with a character and having a character as powerful as Superman, not just devolving to punching people immediately, is not a bad message to send. I think that could be pretty cool. But here's the problem. It's not a story in which Superman has to figure out ways to avoid just directly using damage. It's a story where Superman is not challenged. So when I go through the run, there's usually three scenarios that happen when it comes to Superman dealing with an antagonist. Scenario one, Superman fights an opponent that he easily overpowers and has no trouble taking them down. Scenario number two, Superman deals with a character who can challenge him, but he can talk down because they were either threatened or blackmailed or forced into being antagonistic. Or option three, he faces an opponent that challenges him and he can't just easily overcome, and also is willingly being antagonistic. In that case, he just runs away. There's no conflict, he just runs. So either he can talk them out of it, overpower them, or if he can't do either, he just runs. That's it. There's never a moment in Son of Kal-El in which John is forced to actually confront a character who could fight him in a way that he actually has to try and he's forced to do it. There's never a scenario that happens. And that creates a book where there is really no tension or stakes with the fighting or interactions with other antagonists. It's just, oh, here's a bad guy. They will not actually make John be pushed to his limit. And the whole pacifistic, I use air quotes, pacifistic aspect of it isn't really even a story thing. It's just Taylor just doesn't put him in situations in which he would have to fight. It's not that he chooses not to fight. He's just not doing it. That's it. John being a pacifist isn't a new character trait that's being introduced. It's not something that's consistent with his character before, when this was happening, or afterwards. This is just something that Taylor wanted to do. Now, again, I don't mind the idea of John dealing with antagonists in a way that is non-violent first, but it shouldn't be easy. It should be something that's challenging. If you want to go with another example, we could talk about Vash the Stampede from Trigun, who is also more in text a pacifistic character rather than metatextually being written as a pacifist. And even though he tries to take down opponents non-lethally, he tries to avoid fighting, he's still challenged, and sometimes he's forced to do things that he doesn't want to do. And seeing him navigate his moral beliefs while also trying to navigate combat and confrontation is interesting and compelling. It creates tension and intrigue in the plot that wouldn't be there if he wasn't a pacifist. And yet with John, none of that is there, because he will always win, because there is no challenge in anything he does. He either runs, overpowers, or talks. That's not interesting. The overpowering aspect isn't interesting because it's usually just, oh, I'm Kryptonian and I can just easily beat them. The talking aspect isn't interesting because it's just like, hey, don't be bad. Okay, that's it. It's not really interesting. There's no appeal to the character trying to figure them out or anything. There's nothing interesting there. And running away is just running away. I don't think I need to say more than that. Just generally, nothing about the way John interacts with antagonists is interesting. And I don't see why it needs to be that way. It could have been way better if Taylor put effort into his writing. And this is more of a symptomatic issue with his general run, which was he didn't really put a lot of effort into what he was writing with that run. At least that's how it comes across. I would be very disappointed if this writer, who is so respected, that this was the best he can do. I like to think that he can do better than this. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel about this entire run in general. But this is one aspect of it I really wanted to talk about, because I feel like it's just so frustrating, because this is an aspect of his run that he praises and brags about in interviews, when I think is one of the worst aspects of his run in that regard. So yeah, I just wanted to get that off my chest.